Today was a big day for me. Got my little thing here, Us guys hate going to the doctor. Um, no exception to that. For some reason, we tend to be kind of weenies when it comes to somebody sticking something in our arm. In fact, that's kind of how my situation began. Well, I went to the doctor. It's been a little over a year now since my surgery, and it was the checkup thing they do to make sure you don't have any more cancer. And everything's good, so that's a good deal. That's a great deal. But there was a series of events that happened in here that's miraculous. I mean, there's no other way to describe it in my mind other than miraculous. And I think the doctor, or the surgeon, I should say, he's believing that also. I sat in his office, and you know how it is when you talk to a doctor. Typically, they don't want to spend much time with you because they get paid, and this guy's the top surgeon. I just didn't call him doctor, I call him the surgeon, Dr. Lee, and so he's got time to spend with other people, obviously. But originally, when I was there about a year ago, before the operation, I think he thought I was kind of a Looney Tune. He was very professional and very patient with me, but I could tell that some of the things I was saying to him, I operate by faith, and his world is different than that. His world is A plus B equals C. My world is you have to believe in the things you can't see, which is not everybody's world. But if you're from that world, the ABC world, hang with me, because this thing proves itself out scientifically. And let me explain that. Well, anyway, I was in his office, and we were just talking about the events, and I said, Dr. Lee, originally when I was here, it didn't look too good, did it? And it didn't. And here's how my story came about. Like a lot of guys, I never really went to the doctor very often. And when you get to be 50 years of age and you're a man, you need to get your prostate checked. I think the number is around 70% of all men at some time in their life, if they live past 50, will have prostate cancer. So it's a big deal. And I never did because, I ran 6 to 8 miles every other day. I didn't have any of the symptoms they talk about. I wasn't waking up at night and going to the bathroom all the time, and it was normal sexual life, and didn't have that kind of stuff. So there was no alarm set off. And I think sometimes God will use us. He will do things, bring events into our life to get our attention, because he knew I never would go to a doctor. And so all of a sudden, I get this thing in the mail from this insurance company that I've been paying $200 a month for the last 20 years. It's a life insurance, universal life or whatever that is. Anyway, it said I owed them $7,600 and some dollars. Or it was 200, I don't know. It was over $7,000, it was a lot of money. And my initial reaction was, what the heck? This is outrageous. I've been paying all this money and I owe this kind of money? So I thought, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to go get some term insurance, because everyone told me all along that's cheaper anyway. So I found this place and applied for a term policy, and they came out and pricked my finger and took their blood test at my house and took it back to the lab. So in the meantime, my wife comes up to me, and we have this home group that meets at our house, and she said, Mark, Fred, he's a little shy, and he's having his birthday party coming up, and his son-in-law is throwing a party at his house, and would you consider going? His wife asked me if you consider going. I said, yes, Fred seems like a nice guy, sure. So I went to this place, and it was in Colleyville. That's a really wealthy area of Texas, and this place was huge. And I usually don't like to talk about what somebody does, but we got there about 20 minutes early, and nobody was there yet, so finally I guess I was curious, and I said, what is it you do? And he says, I'm a urologist. And you know what? I didn't totally know what a urologist was. I mean, hate to admit it, but kind of had an idea, but wasn't sure. So anyway, a little time passes afterwards, and I get this thing in the mail from the insurance company, and they said that I failed the physical, that I have a PSA score, a high PSA score, and that I need to consult a urologist. You have possibility of cancer. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And then I'm thinking, well, wait, I know a urologist. So I think, that's interesting. I just met the guy a few days earlier. So I go to see him. And he says, well, do you have the symptoms? And I said, well, and I said, no. And we went through that list and everything. He said, Mark, why don't we just come back in about 6 months and we'll just take an exam. It's probably at the small stage of it, beginning stages, and we have a little time to wait. Because I was going to go to India I do contemporary Christian music, and I was going to go over there to do some music, and I wanted to go do music is what I wanted. And then he had a second opinion. He stopped and he said, you know what, just let me check. So he did a quick little test, and he says, you know what, Mark, I feel a tumor. I says, that doesn't sound too good. He says, well, we better do a biopsy in the next couple of days. And so they did. They scheduled a biopsy, they did a sonogram, and my wife was there with me, and she says, wow. He said, this isn't good. You've got a 7.89 PSA. My guess is you're in stage 3, possibly stage 4 cancer. Your prostate has it all on the left-hand side. That's not so bad because we can remove those prostates robotically now, but I'm concerned because it appears to be moving into your lymph node system and outside your prostate. Now we can take out the prostate robotically, but we'd have to radiate the other stuff. And when we start to radiate, it's a whole different game. So I'm thinking, wow. And he wasn't pulling any punches, which I appreciate. My wife just looked at me and, I'm thinking, oh my goodness. So then I asked the question, well, what about India? And he said, Mark, you need to get an operation, and we're not talking India right now. You need to be concerned about your life. So, I've been through some stuff, and I've seen things happen, and really, it didn't really set me off in this huge fear mode. In fact, I started thinking to myself, well, maybe this is God's way of using me as a testimony. Not that he would give us cancer, but that he could take it and turn something good out, make something good out of it. Or maybe I don't make it, and maybe I'm with Jesus early. That sounds pretty good to me. Sometimes this life is kind of highly overrated. So either way, I'm thinking, this is going to be victory. I'm not going to walk around with my chin on the ground. I've got enough money saved up for my wife and children will be okay, and I'm okay. I'm okay with this. Whatever God has, he's probably doing something, orchestrating something right now, and then you just go with that. So I wasn't real negative about it. My 2 daughters, I have a 10-year-old daughter and a 30-year-old daughter, and they wanted me to get an operation, and I was kind of waiting to have God use me in a way that it would be a testimony. But I finally said to them, I said, okay, I'll do it. So I did get the operation. Well, a week before the operation, though, I had to come in and pay some money because I had switched my insurance about 7 months earlier to catastrophe insurance because I used to have good insurance, but it cost too much, and I thought, I never get sick anyway, so I'll switch it. Bad timing. So they wanted a prepayment from me, and the prepayment was pretty sizable. So I came in there to make a prepayment before the operation. And I said, I have just been feeling really good. Would you take a PSA test? I would like another PSA test. She said, we can't do that without the doctor's permission. I said, I just wrote you a down payment check for $15,000. Would you at least just prick my finger? Please, I'm the patient. And, I was kind of copying attitude a little bit. I could have handled that a lot better than that. But she did. Well, I had up until that time, within a 2 or 3 week span, I had people coming to my house praying over me. I do a prison ministry. I go into prisons. Prisoners, inmates were praying over me. I had a couple of churches in India that I'm associated with, and I visited in my trips over there that were fasting and praying for me. There was prayer coming from everywhere, and I was praying myself. And I just thought, what? I think God's going to take this thing away. Well, the result came back 2 days before the test. My PSA score had gone from 7.89 down to 5.19. That's a major thing. Okay, I wasn't... That's what I'm saying. If you're from the scientific crowd, explain that thing scientifically, okay? So anyway, it drops down to that level. And I go in and get the operation. I'm assuming the doctor had that information. He didn't. I found out later. It was a traumatic time. When the operation actually came, it was hard. My wife crawled into the operating bed with me before they wheeled me in. We had this little time together. She just crawled up next to me and put her arms around me and said, "God's going to take care of you, Mark. It's going to be okay." And it was so sweet and so tender. And anyway, we went through the operation and I came out. And the doctor came and said to me, "Mark, it's amazing. You're one of the luckiest men I've ever met." And I said, "Why do you say that, Dr. Lee?" He said, 30% of the cancer was gone. What do you mean? You didn't know that? He said, "What do you mean I didn't know that?" I said, "Dr. Lee, I had a PSA test done a week before the operation. You should have those results." He said, I didn't see that. Which stuns me, why they wouldn't have showed that to a doctor. I mean, that seems like a pretty major deal. But anyway, he said, "Well, we just had to remove the prostate. We didn't see anything else. And, the rest of your body looks good. We're not going to have to do any radiation or anything. You're really, really a lucky man." And I said, "Dr. Lee, this has nothing to do with luck." I said, "Nothing." I said, "You're a highly intelligent man. I know you're really good at what you do. And you're incredibly smart. But all of that is a gift from God. And sometimes God will work through you. And sometimes He'll do it Himself, and sometimes He'll work in collaboration. I think in this case, Dr. Lee, I don't mean to insult you, but I think He worked in collaboration. You had the easiest part, and He had the hardest part." And he looked at me and said, "I really don't know what to say." And I said, "Dr. Lee, do you believe in God?" And he said, "Yeah, I believe in a God." I said, "Dr. Lee, I wasn't praying to a random God out there. I was praying to Jesus Christ." And he was listening, but I could tell he was a little uncomfortable, but I think he was very curious. So anyway, today, a year later, we're there in his office. He comes in and he sits down and we're chatting for 20 minutes and we're talking about this stuff. And I said to him again, "Dr. Lee, I think God helped you out on this one." He said, "Oh, I know God helped me out." And I said, "Oh, you believe He does, huh?" He said, "Oh, I couldn't have done it without Him." Well, about 4 weeks ago, a wife of a friend of mine whose husband had gotten prostate cancer, I asked them, "What doctor are you going to see?" And they said his name. And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Yeah, he goes to Gateway Church now." And I said, "Really?" My wife had originally said, I had said to her, "Kelly, I wonder why God just didn't totally heal me." He said, "Mark, this one was for Dr. Lee." I don't know if that's true or not. I didn't ask him if he went to Gateway or not. But I can tell you what, he was warm and receptive, and it was like this thing has come to a completion. And I am so excited. I tell you, when we keep our faith and let God do what He's trying to do, and we go with it, it's amazing what He will do. And I just feel so blessed by the cancer. Thank you.